Good morning, everyone. I just could not vlog this morning. Actually, I'm not vlogging. I'm just here to introduce Ivan Gentle Yeti, Achilles, and myself. We did an interview a couple weeks back so that you could get the perspective of other hikers, not just mine and Captain and Will's version. So I hope you enjoy this vlog today. All right, guys, let's get started. First of all, thank you so much for doing this. I made a joke about like, I'm selfishly doing this because I want to keep the trail alive. I mean, there is some truth to that. Like, I just want to keep talking about it and keep, I don't know, just experiencing it. It's hard kind of coming back and just like walking away from the trail and coming back, as you guys all know, and not thinking about it and talking about it, whatnot. And then I was talking with Will and I'm like, there's a lot of value in talking to people and their story and how they hiked and what they did and all this stuff. And I said, you know what, I'm going to see if some of the guys and some of the gals that I met along the way want to do a chat about the questions that people are always asking. But if they're asking me, they're just getting my perspective on my vlog and maybe Captain's perspective, which is not, I want to share a greater perspective because everyone has different thoughts and feelings about this. And then it reaches a greater audience for people that are wanting to come and do this hike. So with that, I chose you guys because I just really liked all of you when I met you. I met you at different points in the trail. Some of you I met again and didn't see for a while. And I just thought you were very honest and open, and I really liked that because I think that's important to share, period. Okay, so one of you has a lot of feedback, and I'm not sure who it is. It might be you, Achilles. Mute yourself for a second.
I was muted.
You were muted. Okay, so it might be you, Ivan?
It was me. It was me.
Okay, so if it continues, I might have you just mute yourself when you're not talking, because it's pretty loud, and I don't think it's something you can control, right?
Well, I'll mute it when I'm not talking because I have the generator on the RV right now, and that's probably what you're hearing.
That is probably what I'm hearing. Okay, cool. And if it's interfering with like your thought process, then just keep it on. We'll make it work. So anyway, you guys are here because I really liked all you guys, and I thought you could bring a lot of value to this. And you all, from what I know, and I don't know the answers to all the questions that I'm going to ask, from talking with you guys, some of the questions I know the answers to. I think you just all bring so many different things to the table. So that being said, if there's any question you don't want to answer or it's personal, you just say that, okay? It's totally chill here. I'm not comfortable saying that. I just don't feel like answering that one, or I don't have an answer for that one. I'm still thinking about it or whatever. And please feel comfortable to do that. So the first thing to get us really comfortable, I want to know is, have any of you brought some of your bad habits from the trail back home? And I know, Achilles, you're not home yet, but you're transitioning back into the real world. Has anyone gone and peed in the yard or dropped some food on the floor at a restaurant and picked it up and ate it? Like, anyone done anything like that?
I literally at a restaurant.
Okay.
I literally had my Philly cheesesteak knocked on the ground earlier today, and I picked it right up and ate it.
Nice.
I probably would have done that before the trail too, but you can count that as a trail habit, I guess.
How about you, Ivan? You done anything weird that Josie's gone, what the heck is that?
Actually, no, I have not. Because, dropping food on the ground, picking it up, the 3-second rule, I've done that before, so it wasn't like the trail.
Okay.
So I have gotten an urge for eating ramen bomb. I was thinking about that, and I told my wife, you know what? I think I'm eating a ramen bomb. I haven't eaten one of those in a while.
I haven't craved any of the trail food, but I didn't like it when I was on there to begin with, so I definitely don't want to eat it post-trail. However, I'm going to stick some of the things into Captain's Will sending me little notes into Captain's Christmas stocking this year, just to kind of wig him out a bit. So he's like, make sure they introduce themselves. I'm like, that was an icebreaker, Will. Not that they seem tense. Okay, guys, can you each introduce yourselves? Use your trail name. Where are you from, and your age, if you're comfortable stating that. I mean, I know Ivan is 110 and it's embarrassing, but whatever, just so they can get a vibe from you. So trail name, where you're from, and your age.
My name is Achilles. I'm from Texas, and I'm 33.
I'm Gentle Yeti. I'm High Falls, New York, which is near the Catskills, and I'm 63. Unmute.
Oh, you're muted. You're muted. I know it's a pain, Ivan. Sorry.
It's all good. All good. I turned off the generator and everything. Can you still get that feedback now?
No, it's
That's
better
better.
now. So keep your mic
Okay.
off. If it makes you feel
Yes.
better, I'm sitting with no AC on as well. So if you see sweat
No,
beads
no,
coming
I'm
down
good.
me.
I've got the fan on and all that.
Okay,
So,
okay.
but my name is Ivan. I'm from Maryland. This is where I retired. And what was the other question?
How old are you?
62.
All right. And
I
you
turned
guys,
62 on the trip.
woohoo! I turned 52 on the trip. So I will answer some of the questions that going as well, but I won't answer all of them because I really want to focus on you guys, and people already know a lot about me. But my trail name is Sunshine. I'm from all over the world, and I'm 52, and I turned 52 on the trail. Do you guys want to share how you got your trail names?
Yeah, sure. I attempted the trail last year, and I got hurt really early on, and it was my Achilles tendon. So I started working at a hostel. I worked there for like a year, and the hostel owner thought I needed a trail name since I was working there. And so I got Achilles, and I kept that through the whole year.
So, a Gentle Yeti was a brand of coffee from the Coffee of the Month Club. And I left my coffee at home one day. We were doing the Catskill Fire Tower Challenge. And I turned around and drove about 3 miles back to get the coffee. And the coffee I made that morning was Gentle Yeti. So
Oh, that's
how I
awesome.
got my-
I didn't know. I knew Achilles and Ivan, how they got theirs, but I didn't know yours. All right, Ivan.
So I served in the military for 30 years. And for those that are familiar with the military, they call you by your rank, your position, or by your last name. So I thought that it would be really interesting to just introduce myself to everybody with my first name, which is the only people that call me by my first name right now is my family. So that was interesting. I actually liked it, so it was pretty cool.
You know, I think I told you this when Captain and I first met you, you told us that story. And it's sometimes hard to remember people's trail names, right? And we remembered it. And I remember, I don't know, like a couple weeks later, I said, is there anyone that we've met that you want to see again? He goes, that guy that goes by his real name. What was his real name? I was like, that's awesome. I mean, it's like, it's a cool story, right? Not being called by your real name. So it's actually really precious to you. Okay. What was your start date and what was your end date?
Started March 19th, ended October 11th.
I started on March 20th and I finished on October 6th.
I started I started in April 9th on the approach trail, April 10th on the actual trail, and I finished October 6th.
Oh, Speedy Gonzalez. I started March 22nd with Captain and we ended October 12th. So we're all kind of like around the same time, which is really very interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
So this one might get a little personal. So if you don't feel comfortable answering, it's okay. Why did you do the trail? And if you still don't know why, then you have to do it again.
I mean, it was just something I always wanted to do, and I got to the point in my life where I had the time and the money to do it, so I pulled the trigger. But, you know, mostly just so I could have some sort of, you know, when feeling listless, I wanted some sort of straightforward goal that was challenging, but was straightforward enough, you know, just keep walking north. That was
I love it, right?
yeah.
You don't have to overthink it too much.
Exactly. I needed something that didn't involve any commitment beyond the goal itself and was straightforward enough to just pursue and get it done.
I love it.
I always wanted to do the Appalachian Trail, and I never thought it was going to happen. And all of a sudden, some doors opened up, and I started doing the research about it, and I went for it. So I'm glad I did it. It was one of the best experiences of my life.
Do you remember what made you kind of initially always want to do it? Was it a movie? Was it someone talking about it? Was it a childhood family trip? Like, do you remember what it was?
I think it was in like Cub Scouts or something like that. Someone came and talked to us about it. So I think that's what it was.
I love it. And that's
That's a
stuck
long
with you
time
all
ago.
these years, right?
Yeah.
That is a long time ago.
You know, you got your kids getting away sometimes, and you know, they had soccer practice, tuba lessons, you know, all that
Yeah.
stuff. So, you know, so that came first. They're out and about now doing their own thing, and had the time, so I went
Awesome.
with,
Ivan?
with my wife's blessing.
Right. Right.
We know that, brother. We know that. So, just a little background. So, the title of my journey was Journey of Gratitude, and I've talked to you guys about this on Trail. I have so much to be thankful for. I got interested
Excuse me.
through YouTuber. I got interested on the Appalachian Trail when I finished working in November, and I felt an urge to do a research on it. And through that research, I became interested. I named it the Journey of Gratitude because I'm thankful for many, many things, starting with my service to God and my service to my wife and to my kids, to my grandkids, and just developing relationship with others. And I've been blessed to have good friends, a wonderful family, and, uh, and a God that looks over us every single day. So as a man of God, you know, I'm very grateful. And that's why I named the Journey of Gratitude. And throughout this journey, that's what I focus uh, my uh, my hike on. You know, just being thankful. And every time things got hard, I just thought of the things I was thankful for, and it made it a little easier.
Yeah, that makes a big difference, right? Like why you're out here doing it, and on the days that it gets really hard, remembering that we've pretty much lived our whole life, but definitely the last 11 years of travel like that. Like when it gets really bad, it's like, okay, why are we out here? And our why has always been the children of why we live the way we do. It makes it a lot easier to go through it. Now, this isn't a question I have, but you guys made me think of it. So I just want to address it for just a second. Gentle Yeti, Ivan, and myself all went without our partners. And Achilles found a partner on the trail. Anyway, I think it's really worth noting how, and I know we've talked about this and whatnot, that the support of our partners being the ones that were left behind while we went and did this, we think our journey was so hard, and it was hard every day. But being the one that's left behind is really, I feel like, even harder than what we did and what we accomplished. And I know we've talked about this. We all agree that we could not have done this without the support of our partners. So I just want to give them like a big, for being so understanding to, well, not really knowing 100% what we were going through. Like we can tell them, but it's very different than experiencing, I think we would all agree. And I think, Achilles, you can probably relate to this too, because you had a partner on the trail, and be you probably that you guys have probably a greater understanding because you were both doing it, which is a little different. But the partner aspect of all of this, whether someone is with you on the trail or someone is back home, is really, really crucial. And having that support and talking about gratitude, like I'm so grateful that Will was there on the days that I was crying and the days that I was happy and the days that I just needed him to come get me and whatnot. And I'm assuming you guys all feel the same way as well. So it can be done with going without your partner. It's hard, and you have to have a partner who really, really understands. And I think that's crucial for people to kind of know about this situation when you're going
Absolutely.
without them. You guys have anything you want to add to that?
Yeah. I think making them part of the whole journey, at least for us, it was really important from the beginning. The whole planning started with my family. So my daughter did help me when I just made the decision. I told my family, my daughter who lives in Alabama, my son who lives in Washington State, and my wife. We all got together as we do most things. And we just started doing the research. My son provided me with some good workout. He's a gym rat. My daughter helped me with the research, and my wife and I, we did all the research with regards to mileage and the whole AAT journey, right? And I think having done that, getting her the book and her making notes in her book, and as I review the notes, she has good notes that when I'm reading them, I've decided to do a little journal just because of the notes she's made, things that I remember, and the pictures that I have. But I think making them a part of that just made it a little easier. It didn't make it easy, but it made it easier because we would talk often and we would talk about the trail, and they can kind of relate, not necessarily in a physical sense, but mentally, because they know us so well. They know what we were going through, like you said, when we were crying, when we were emotional, or anything we were going through at that moment. They knew and could feel, because they're partners, right? They know us better than anybody else. So I think bringing them along in that journey just was magical by itself. So yeah, I think
That's a
I would have not been
really
able to do it without her.
That's a great point because, like being on the trail, I'm sure there are people that hiked all alone the whole time on the trail. I'm not saying there are not, but you form teams and tramleys and people that you might hike with for a week or a couple days or maybe the whole trail. And there is this focus on working as a team on the trail, and also it's like you said, having your kind of team back home that is there for you and understanding and going through the process with you. I mean, everyone that's watching this probably knows that Will, Captain and I shot the videos and Will edited them. And so we were very much a team, and he understood and saw what we were going through. So I think that's a really great point to bring up, Ivan, is to get people involved and excited. I know that when we first started sailing, I really just didn't. I'm not a natural sailing to begin with, but I really didn't take to it too well until we got into our lessons and worked as a team and as a family and accomplished this goal together. So even though someone isn't walking there beside you, they are part of the team, right? They're part of the virtual team, I guess. Okay, so did anyone set out to be a purist? And I don't even know what that means because everyone has different versions of it. But was your initial goal, let's say, to go from south to north and walk the entire AT trail? Was it a version of that? Did you start out have a goal to do one way and then modified it as it needed to be modified for your needs or whatever as you went? What were your kind of initial thoughts on that? And then did you change it all through the process, and where did you end up landing?
I always had the intention of doing the whole trail, crossing every white blaze. And I mean, purist is in the eye of the beholder, right?
Right.
I would slack pack, and I aqua blaze at a boots off hostel. So I was like, oh, it's still adventurous, it still counts. Although my OCD got the better of me, and I am on my way back right now to hike those miles that I skipped on that aqua blaze. So I guess you could say I'm a purist in that regard. I didn't do any blue blazes or skips, so and I stuck to that. And it's not like I'm a big proponent of hike your and hike, do whatever makes it fun for you.
Yeah.
But I personally couldn't skip anything because of OCD. It's not like an honor thing. It was just I know it would bother me if I skipped, and it did. And so I'm heading back to do the one thing that I skipped. So.
Well, I can totally relate to that because, as you guys know, initially when we started, I was like, I just want to have this experience with Captain, and we'll go as far as we go until we're not, and if there comes a point we're not enjoying it anymore, right? And we were 5 minutes on the trail, and he was like, and he agreed to that kind of idea. We were 5 minutes on the trail, and he goes, well, I've hiked for 5 minutes. I'm not going to lose 5 minutes of my life. We're going all the way. And I was like, oh, okay, we're going all the way. And our goal was always, and I completely agree with Achilles, hike your own hike. I don't judge other people's hike. I don't even really put a definition on a purist except for what's kind of online of what a thru-hiker definition is. But our goal was to hike all the white blazes to Katahdin. We did not want to go southbound at all. We didn't want to flip flop, and we didn't want to skip miles and go back to them. Unfortunately, the way life had it, we did slack pack some. We did not skip. We obviously have completed at this point. We did not skip any of the white blazes by the time we had completed, but we jumped ahead 100 miles in Vermont and then went back a couple weekends and did 20 and did 20. And then once we summited Katahdin, we had to go back and do the rest of our miles. I'm like Achilles in the sense that I don't know if it's the OCD or that we set this goal and we really both wanted to hit all the white blazes and accomplish that. And so it is possible and doable. We just had to modify how we wanted to do it because we really wanted to be our last day at the top of Katahdin, and weather had another decision for that. And so we had to modify our plan again and as a result of that. But we accomplished the goal we set out to accomplish. We just had to be flexible is basically it. So, okay, how about you guys?
I set out to be a purist in the fact that I wanted to hit every white blaze
Mhm.
on the trail. I did slack pack a few times, but it was south to north.
Mhm.
And a couple of the slack packs were Sobo, but we hit every white blaze on the trail.
Yeah,
That was
so
my thought.
it sounds like so far the three of us are very similar. How about you, Ivan?
Well, so I set out to hit all the white blazes. I did. There was one time that we went on a blue blaze with a team that I was with. Everybody agreed that they wanted to go to the blue blaze, so I stayed with the team. That's when I was slacking. When I was going with but I did a lot of things in this trail. So when I left, my intent was to figure it out within the first 2 weeks. What I wanted to do was I going to slack pack. Was I going to do all those other things that people talked about on on YouTube. So I did lots of slack packing. What I found out was what's it called, the platinum blazing. People, I was
Yeah.
doing hostels and the hotels and the motel. People say, "Hey man, you're platinum blazing." I said, "Okay, that's good." I
Sure.
didn't know what it was until somebody told me what it was, right? So I said, "Okay, that's good." So I did a lot of platinum blazing. I stayed in a lot of hotels, motels, hostels. I camped. I did the slack packing. I tried to stay on the white blaze for the majority of them. I think I did blue blaze once, and it was about a mile, maybe two. Didn't go back and get it. Didn't care about doing that because I did a whole bunch of other, additional miles that I think made up for it. I don't
Right.
have OCD, so I don't worry about that kind of stuff. So, uh, but I think it was amazing. The way I did it was I made decisions based on the way I felt,
Yeah.
and those decisions were and I'm not sure if you're going to talk about this or not, but I'm going to cover it now if you
Go
don't
for it.
mind.
Go for it.
There were three times that I thought about quitting, and the
Mm.
last time was the one that I was at the Upper Goose Pond cabin. I thought it was done. I called my
Mm.
wife. I said, "Baby, get on the plane and back to done." And that was what I was going to do. And
And did
um,
she say, Ivan, you get your ass back on that trail?
No, well, we talked about that. So what we talked about at the beginning was, if I ever call you and tell you that I want to come home, don't accommodate me too quickly.
Yeah.
Troubleshoot me. Because as we saw more and more videos, we noticed that that's going to be something that most people, I'm not going to say all, because I don't know all people, but most people that we watch went through that phase at one point in
Yeah.
time or another. So at least the ones that we watch on YouTube as we prepare for this. And so anyway, but they said, I spoke to several people, I prayed with several people, and then by the time I got to Vermont, I decided that I was going to continue, and then I made it all the way to Katahdin. Um, so yeah, so that's what happened, and so what I made was decisions based on the way I felt, like when Eric and Eric can talk about this as well. When we did Madison and we did this other New Hampshire and Maine challenge um, um, hikes, where our knees were killing us. We
Yeah.
were resting mostly one day a week, but there was a week that we had to take 2 days off, not consecutively, but we did 3 days we hiked, one day we took off, 3 days we hiked, one day we took off because it was killing us. Our knees were hurting, our body was still, was hurting pretty much, and so that's the way I essentially did my hike, and I'm glad I did it that way because that's what allowed me to finish.
So you had said two things that I want to kind of expand on. One is rest when you're tired or hurting. I think that's a real key takeaway. And anyone that I've been talking to so far that's asking for like, well, what's your one big takeaway, your two big takeaways? I usually tell them, try and find a way to double your budget in the beginning so you can take a rest day and not have to worry that you're spending your budget money too early on because you're going to need it, right? And it's really, also, I love that, not letting your wife kind of jump too quickly to come and save you. Because the thing is, they always say, right, don't quit on a bad day. And that's
Right.
really, I think, important. And then the other thing is, did you, Achilles and Gentle Yeti, did you guys have any days where you felt like, I'm done, I'm quitting? I don't like to use the word quitting because I feel like no matter how much you do on this trail, you're not quitting. But did you ever a point where you wanted to stop? That you're like, okay, I don't know if I want to do this anymore.
I feel like that's definitely two different questions for me because did I ever think about quitting? No, I never did. The only reason I made it through was because I gave myself no option from the beginning to quit. But the only reason I would have stopped is if I got hurt. And that, I mean, that was the whole. Now, the other way you put it was there any days that I wanted to stop, or I can't remember what you said now, but yeah, no, for sure. Especially during the summer. It was so hot. It was so hot every day.
I know.
I was so soaked with sweat and miserable.
You could wring out your shirt.
Yeah. And definitely thinking like, oh, like, what am I doing? But if I had ever even mentally given myself the option of quitting, I probably would have quit then, but I didn't. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that. And I'll get to you in just a second, Gentle Yeti. Yeah, we all experienced, I mean, depending on where we were on the trail, but we were pretty close, I think, to each other most of the time, like 80 to 90 degree temps for like a month with huge water carries and dried up. I mean, that was just so brutal. And I think that a lot of people can relate to that. It's interesting you said that you never gave yourself the option of quitting or stopping, because that was when I had to get off trail once because of I had a tendonitis really bad, and I got off for 3 days, and Will came and hiked with the captain. And when he had to come on the trail, and he had to carry my pack 0.3 of a mile off because I couldn't carry it. I was in so much pain. And I said to him that day, I said, I'm not getting off this trail. I will not stop this trail until I have to be carried off. And he was like, whoa. And I said, I know we're pretty close to that right now, but that's kind of, and I'm not saying, I am not suggesting that for anyone. I don't know if that's actually the best approach to have, but that was my approach. Like, I mentally could not stop the trail because I was with someone who really wanted this to accomplish this. And I really wanted to as well. And I wanted to have the whole complete experience. And so that was how I determined that I knew mentally the trail could never, or would likely never get to me, but physically it could. And so, like I said, to everyone watching this, I'm not recommending necessarily that approach, but I can relate to what Achilles said because I had the same experience.
Yeah. And I think a lot of it for me had to do with getting off last year, because I got off really early. I didn't make it through Georgia last year. And it was because of, like, doctor recommended, because I got a really bad case of Achilles tendonitis. And the doctor said that if I kept going on it, I could risk tear, rupture, or whatever. So I worried about that for like a year. And then finally got some advice from a thru-hiker PT that said, she basically told me what I wanted to hear, which is your body's not made of glass. There's not a whole lot of evidence between tendonitis and rupture. And that gave me basically the permission for myself to keep pushing myself. And like you said, I wouldn't necessarily recommend it to everybody, because my grandma, I was talking to her on the phone while I was on trail. She's like, oh, when you get back, you're going to be in the best shape of all of us. And I was like, I don't know if that's true.
I don't know if that's true.
I don't think it is either.
My body's broken and it continues to break. And I keep walking. I don't know if that's the best thing to do, but I think sometimes that is what it takes.
I think, did everyone, I mean, I'm assuming the answer is yes, but did everyone hike with some amount of physical pain at some point in the trail?
Yes.
Yeah.
I have.
Oh yeah.
I was doing really well until we got to the whites, and the whites just crushed me. And then I just couldn't get back to that same, I was the slow hiker in our group, and everybody was so happy, that it was so helpful with me, helped me, encouraging. But I couldn't get that pace back up again that I was doing before the whites.
I know. And it's like, it's hard to say to people, okay, you're just going to have to do it with pain. But I have to say there are very few people that I met at the end of the hike that were not hiking with some amount of pain, whether it was the entire trail or just the latter part or bits and pieces. I think it kind of goes along with the territory. Even the younger people, the people that were in like the early 20s were still hiking with some sort of pain. I think it just goes along with the territory. So I don't want to miss your answer to this, Gentle Yeti. Did you ever feel like you wanted to quit, or if you don't want to use the word quit, stop the trail at any point?
I never wanted to stop the trail. But I think I don't know if I told you the story. I got swelling in my right calf back in Pennsylvania. And we were going along. I was with two other folks at the time, Gloss and Loki. But these people come up behind me, and the woman goes to me that I'm in the medical field and you should have that calf looked at. They're just being nice to me. My right calf was getting to be 18 inches big. And I said, okay, thank you. A little while later, somebody else goes, you ought to have that looked at. So I did hike with some doctors early on, and I sent them the description. There was no pain or anything. And they go, "Can you send me some pictures?" So I sent them pictures, and they said, "You should have that looked at." I'm like, okay. So we were not too far. We're about 40 miles from my house, High Point, New Jersey. My wife came down. We went to the emergency room, and the doctor made me get off trail for a week. So I was only 40 miles, 45 miles from home. So I came home, iced it, and it turned out to be not a deep vein thrombosis, which everybody was probably thinking about, but spider bite.
Spider bite.
Yeah. So I got off trail for a week, and
for a spider bite. That's a great story.
Yeah.
Wow.
But no, I never wanted to get off trail, but they're like, because I'm like, geez, if I get off trail now, will I get back on trail again? I don't want to miss this. I got the opportunity. I'm so close to home. If I go home, am I gonna, so.
And there is a real risk of that, because they say when people get off for more than a couple days and go home or to a wedding or something like that, that a lot of the time, they don't come back.
Right.
So, I mean, that is kind of scary because everyone's telling you that, and you're a little worried about that. Achilles, did you have to make an ER visit at all? On this hike?
No, I didn't have to do an ER visit, but I did have to get a root canal while I was on trail.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Really?
That happened last year too. And like the 1 week that I was on trail last year, I think I was in Massachusetts. Yeah.
Oh my
Massachusetts.
gosh.
It started hurting, and like I knew I had to get a root canal on that tooth before I started, but funds and the fact that it didn't hurt, I was just like, I'm just gonna keep going. It'll be fine.
Right.
It wasn't, and it started hurting. It was like the worst tooth pain I've ever had. So I got antibiotics sent out, and I was on antibiotics for like a week before I got the root canal. Went in, got the root canal, got back on trail that same day.
Wow. Okay. This wasn't one of my questions, but I think it's interesting to see that, okay, so you had to get off for root canal. Gentle Yeti went to the ER and had a spider bite. I'm going to tell my story, and then once Ivan's back in here, we'll let him see if he had anything. So when I got off the trail for those 3 days because of the tendonitis, I actually went to an urgent care just to have an x-ray done on it to see if it was something more. I didn't think it was, to be honest, because it was on both feet. So I was like, this is probably just, it is what I thought. I actually thought it was something with my Achilles because I didn't know all my body parts well enough, I guess. And it was inner tendonitis on my ankles. And they said, you're fine. And the doctor said to me, I can tell you to rest. He goes, but after having this conversation with you, I know you're not going to listen. So here's what you can do in the meantime. And he told me about taping it up and icing it when I could and some other things that would really help. So I had to make an ER visit. And then Captain made a visit or I guess urgent care, or an urgent care visit, because he had a tick on him and then he was really tired for a couple days. So I was worried that he might have Lyme disease. He was annoyed that he had to go because it was on his one rest day, and I was hiking, making up some miles, and Will had to take me. He's like, I'm fine. I know I don't have it. But that was kind of the situation. I'm glad I did it. I mean, it's different if I make that choice to ignore something with me medically, but not with him, and so so all of us have had some sort of care we had to do off trail. I think I don't know what Ivan's doing over there. Is he folding his laundry? Ivan, how about you? I had to mute you for a minute. You can unmute yourself now.
What was the question? I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's no problem. Did you have to get off trail to go to the emergency room or get any medical care at all?
No, did not.
Oh my God, the superhero. Get out of here.
No, I mean, now, I will tell you this. I did get off trail and I went into, I think it's called All in the Tramley, is a hostel in Tennessee. And because above my knee, I started getting this sharp pain where I was limping and everything. And the intent was to go to the ER, but when I went there, he provided me with some different massage type items, the roller and then a ball. Yep. So I stayed there for that afternoon, and then the next day I took a zero and I just massaged and stretched, and it alleviated the knee pain. And I just kept on stretching throughout most of the trail, and it never came back. I would get a sharp pain, but it wasn't as bad as it was in Tennessee. So I didn't have to go to the ER.
Okay. Did anyone else stretch regularly on their hike?
I did in the beginning. I started the trail with like a lot of pains and stuff, and like I got plantar fasciitis along the way, various tendonitis, knee, Achilles, and all that stuff. And in the beginning, I was really diligent about stretching, but it kind of went by the wayside after a while. And I realized that you can just keep walking and it kind of goes away sometimes.
Gentle Yeti, you were the same too, huh?
I was the same way. I started out pretty regular every night doing some sort of stretching. After a while, it just kind of waned off.
That's interesting. So Captain and I started out with zero stretching. We just thought we were badasses. I don't know. We did not stretch at all. And then we started stretching, not a ton, like maybe for 5 minutes every morning. Once my tendonitis got really bad, we started stretching a little bit, probably not enough, but it did help. And we never stretched at night. It just didn't work for us getting in the tent and stretching, and we were tired. And I'm not saying this is the thing to do. I know these are all excuses, but that's kind of just how we did. Ivan, did you stretch before you had the injury? Were you stretching regularly?
I was. So at the beginning, I stretched a lot. But later on, I think after I got to Virginia, I did very little of it. And then I just stopped. I would stretch a little, right before I get into the tent. But when I got to New England, I completely stopped stretching. I wasn't stretching at all.
You guys were shameful. I'll have Will take this part out and mute over our voices. We're like, we stretch every day. We have like these online things we do with groups. All right. Were you guys part of a tramley? And were you part of like various tramleys? Captain and I were part of I don't know, I would say 500 tramleys. Because of our situation, we didn't get to ever hike with people more than a couple days, except for when we hiked with Gentle Yeti and Ivan at the end, because we would take time off and then we would lose people. Because in the beginning we were taking 2 days off a week, and then we took the month of May off for his academics, and then after that it was kind of all over the place. It was really cool because we got to meet so many people, but we didn't have that one tramley for the whole trip experience. And I don't think any of you had that. Well, Achilles, you kind of had that, but talk a little bit about that, guys.
Yeah, I started out alone and then hooked up with the tramley pretty early on. We formed a tramley the second week pretty much. And I hiked with the tramley for the first 3 months. And then the 3 months after that, I did it alone again, just kind of by choice to get variety, I guess. But yeah, no, I hiked with the tramley about half the trail. And then would meet back up with them kind of later on in the trail with my partner Spark and several other people. We did the whites again together like that. And, kind of finally reached that balance that I was looking for the whole time towards the end of the trail.
Yeah, so I was with 1, 2, 3, 4 tramleys all the way through, I think. Started out with a group, but being the older of a lot of the groups that I were in, I couldn't keep up with the pace that some of these 20-year-olds were hiking. So I let this, you go, you hike your hike and I'll catch up to you later. Right. But I did a hike with some friends I knew in Georgia. They caught up to me just after the Priest, and I hiked with them all the way to High Point, New Jersey. So that was kind of fun. And then I met Ivan. Where did we meet Ivan? It was at Hikers Welcome. And I was slack packing that day before Ivan got there. And then we kind of caught up just outside. I think it was Pinkham Notch. Right there is where we caught up. And that's where I think I caught up to you as well, Sunshine. You and Captain are right in that area. Then, we camped the one night on the hill in the wind. So
yeah. And then Captain and I were like, "We're joining you, tramley." I'm like, I swear we're not stalking you guys. Ivan, how about you?
So I started alone, and then about a week later, I met Billy Bob, and then we hiked together for quite some time. And we met 3 other hikers. We call ourselves Grammarly. So we call it Grammarly. We together to. It was right before.
Ivan, I'm gonna stop your video. I'm gonna stop your video for a minute because you're cutting out, and I think it's your video, so everyone can hear you. I'm just gonna stop your video. Okay, keep talking.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, go ahead. Keep going. Yeah. Yeah, it's better now.
Okay. So So once we got finished, when we took a day off, uh, um, two of us took a day off, and then everybody else just kept on going. And from that point on, it was just I stayed by myself, and I hiked by myself all the way to Harper's Ferry. When I got to Harper's Ferry, all of them did something different. Two of them did something different, and the other ones just went home. So I went by myself from there all the way to New Jersey, where I met another family, which was just one person, which was Tracy. And then we stayed together for quite some time until Mass. And then in Mass, I was by myself again until I met Gentle Yeti. And then later on, we met Frozone
Oz.
and Oz. And then, of course, I've seen you on and off, Sunshine. You and Captain, I saw you guys on and off after Virginia.
Yeah. So, okay, so I'm going to turn your video back on now. All right, asked you to start your video, so now you got to accept it. Yeah, so I think we all had kind of similar, like a variety of experience with tramlines, which I think, and I think I think that's really cool. I love that aspect of it, of getting to meet different people. I met Achilles and Spark like right in the very beginning. I think it was the first snow we had. I think that was our first snow when we met you guys. Because I remember going to bed and I remember Spark saying, they were singing show tunes. And I said to Captain, I'm like, this is the best way to go to bed. They were saying, we had a fire and they were singing show tunes and we went to bed. And then I remember Spark yelling something like 11 o'clock at night, like, it's, I don't know, 6 degrees and it's 11 o'clock. And I was like, what?
You nailed it.
I don't
It was
remember.
6 degrees. Yeah. No,
Yeah,
that's right.
it was freezing. And I was like, I did not need to know how many degrees it was. Like, I was like, and that I think was my coldest night on trail to date. So it was, I mean, that was a cold night. We had a lot of fun. So I think that there's such, I don't know how many people go on the trail thinking they're going to hike the entire trail alone and they're committed to that. I think there's so much value in hiking parts of it alone and hiking parts of it with other people. Whatever your body, your mind, or your soul, whatever it needs at the time, just feed that. I think that people need people, and we might not need someone 24 hours a day, but Captain and I found great value in making friends on the trail and hiking with other people. Even if it was for a couple days or a couple weeks, it brought great value. So anyone watching this, if you're like, oh, I'm not going to do that, I need time alone, trust me, there will come a point where you won't want time alone and you will need community and you'll need to laugh about the stupid things that are happening and the crazy things that are happening, and you'll form new friends that'll be in your life forever. So, you know, if you're thinking it's not for you, just keep an open mind, because I really found great value in that. And I didn't go into the trail thinking we would hike with other people because I was already hiking with someone. So I just got a lot of value out of it.
I found a lot of value in like doing both too. Like I started out like wanting to do it alone, like you were saying specifically. And then like second week I was with the family and like that was great. And it was like what I needed then, but then there came a time when I needed that alone time again. I needed to kind of reconnect in that way. And the trail was perfect that way because it was really fluid and like kind of like doing your own thing and meeting back up with people. And like for me, it really was about trying to find that balance, because then I was alone for 2 to 3 months. And then I was like, oh, I'd kind of like to be hiking with some people again, and got that opportunity along the way because the trail provides. So
yeah, I love that you share that, because I did meet a couple of people along the way who had said, we'd talk about something we did or someplace we'd stayed, and they'd be like, oh, I wanted to do that, but the tramley didn't want to do that, you know? And so I think that when you get to, there's obviously this part of community and doing things and making decisions as a team, and there's nothing wrong with that. But when you're starting to miss out on part of your journey, I feel like you need to step away from your tramley, do your thing. And if you're meant to be together, you'll circle back up. You'll find each other again, or you'll find the people, you know, you're supposed to find. I love that. Like,
yeah, exactly.
You knew what you needed at the time. And at the time you needed people, and then you needed time with yourself. And yeah. I mean, it's 6 months. You can do a lot in 6 months, right? You know? Yeah. Did you guys find it more mentally or physically taxing, or it was equal for both?
Physically for me. I mean, like there's definitely mentally taxing aspects of it without a doubt, especially during the heat. I'll keep talking about that forever. That heat was terrible. But that was the most mentally taxing part of it for me. But physically, yeah, no, I had a lot of injuries and pains and stuff the whole way through. And that was like the primary challenge along the way for me.
Mm-hmm.
I think that I was a little of both as well. When I started, my ankles were making all sorts of creaky noise, and my knees were making all sorts of creaky noise. That kind of went away, so I was kind of nervous about that at the beginning. But I think it was probably a good 50% of physical and mental to keep me going.
I think physically for me was challenging in some ways, and I think my mental state is what pushed me through those physical challenges. Just because there were some physical challenges that I had that I had never experienced before, and because I have certain conditions within my knees and others, I have to push through that, and a lot of mental, um, um, mental capacity and my mental to be able to get through that physical challenge.
So for me, it was physically harder than mentally, but obviously there were some mental challenges there. And then obviously having a minor with me has a whole other level of, he was fine mentally, but just making sure that his needs are taken care of. Even though he can hike circles around me, I'm still responsible for a minor. Was the physical aspect of it harder than you thought it was going to be when you made the decision to hike this hike? For me, it was harder, for sure.
I don't know. It's hard. That's hard to say because like conditioning wise, like able to push myself, I found myself being able to go farther and harder than I expected. And so like, it was it was hard, but like I was able to like go harder than I expected. But the physical pains, like the joints and ligaments and stuff, were worse than I expected for sure. But what was also different than what I expected was, turns out there's a lot of stuff you can just walk off. That I didn't expect. It turns out you can just kind of keep going through. And then there's definitely a line to where you're hurting yourself or you're walking on an injury. But like, as long as it wasn't like tearing or like anything like serious like that, you can just kind of keep going. And that was really surprising to me.
That's very interesting perspective, because that was super surprising to me. When I took those 3 days and went back, Will had rented an Airbnb in Damascus for a month. And I went back there. I was saying, you know what? I think for the first time in my life, I might not be able to make it through this. And you're right. I just walked through it. And I don't know, miraculously, my tendonitis went from like an 8. Eventually, I was still hiking with it, but it was like a 1 or a 2 at the end, but it kind of hovered around a 5 the rest of the trail, which I was surprised. You could just walk through it. How about you guys, Ivan, Gentle Yeti? Harder?
And Ivan, no, it wasn't as hard. I did a lot of training for the trail, and it was tough. It was hard, but it wasn't as, for the most part, I don't think it was as hard as I thought it was going to be. There were certain sections that was definitely a killer, but there was other parts that I walked right through, and I didn't think it was that bad at all. But
it also kind of like, it's over now, so there's a part of it that's like, oh yeah, it wasn't that bad. But if you had asked me when I was on trail, maybe I would have said something
it would have been killer. I walked into Harper's Ferry, it was 103 degrees.
You guys, it's what they always say to women. You forget how painful childbirth is, right? Like we're off long enough now. We're like, oh, that wasn't so bad. But now I'm looking, because we're behind on our vlogs, and I'm looking. I watch them to make sure everything is correct and whatever before, and I go, oh, like I feel a little bit like, oh, I remember that day. It wasn't so good.
So there was one point, Ivan and I were hiking together at this point. It was in Rangeley, actually. And thanks for Josie. She set us up at this, I think it was the Rangeley Inn or something of the sort. And we had arranged for a shuttle to pick us up in the morning. And we had an extra day. We could use there. It was free, I believe. It was two nights. We get 3 nights for the price of 2 or something like that. And we're sitting there, and we were getting up, and we were like both ready. I mean, he was going to call the guy, and he looked at it, he goes, I could take a day off today. I'm like, yeah, I could take a day off today too. So right off the top, we just both said, this is it. We took a day off. It was an extra. It was so needed.
I love that.
But I didn't want to slow him up, and he didn't want to slow me up. But then we just we got to be honest here and just say, hey, you got to correctly, yeah. So,
You guys, I love that story.
so
No,
then he went out and bought a bunch of a couple of steaks, and we grilled them in the parking lot.
Oh my gosh, that's great. See, and you have that memory. Like all the memories aren't just the stuff that actually happened when you're physically walking, right? I mean, some of the greatest stuff you experience are with the people and beyond being on the trail physically walking, which I think is really, really amazing. Ivan, did you think it was physically harder than you originally thought it was going to be before you got on the trail?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It was much harder than I ever imagined. I did work out for about a month and a half too, because I made a decision to do it in December. So um but yeah, to answer your question, absolutely. It was much more physically demanding. Now, I did surprise myself when I was hiking by myself. So I started doing 18, 19, and 20 miles. And the next day I was feeling still with some pain, but I knew and I already said in my mind that's never going to go away.
Yeah.
It's just going to be what it is, for the rest of the trail. Now, and then and like Gentle Yeti said, when I would get to a point where my body already was exhausted, that I felt like I need a day, I just take the day.
Yeah. Okay, so you guys, this is so fabulous. Thank you so much. What can you think of one misconception about hiking the AT? A misconception either you had beforehand or something that's kind of out there on the general internet waves that you're like, no, that's total misconception. That's not accurate.
It's not just a walk in the woods.
Yeah.
Everybody's always going, did you read the book, Walk in the Woods? It's not a walk in the woods. How many people asked you that question?
Right. Did you see the movie?
I thought like I was gonna come out here and have like a lot of time. Like I was like, oh, I'll have all this time to read and write and like spiritual practice. I'm gonna have all this time to like focus on these things that I don't have time to focus on in the real world because of all these distractions. You don't have any time.
Oh
You're walking all day, and when you get done, you don't want to read or write. You want to talk to whoever around and then go to bed. Like I didn't do nearly as much reading and writing as I thought I was going to.
I would agree with that 110%.
Yeah.
When Will came on the trail with Captain for 3 days, this is like one of my favorite stories. It was evening. They had just hiked. They sat down. I think they were having dinner. And he said to Captain, so what do you and Mom do at night? Do you have a deck of cards? Do you have a Frisbee? And Captain looked at him with like he had 5 heads. What do? We eat, we pitch the tent, we eat, we go to bed. That's it. Like we're asleep before we even zip up our quilt. Like we don't do anything. Did you guys agree that you think you thought you were gonna have more time maybe to do other things, whatever it was on the trail?
I thought I might have had a little bit more time, but yeah, there was no time for anything. No extras. I 0 days there were that, I got all my chores done and stuff like that, But you're still, there were days on my 0 days, I was still walking 10,000 steps a day. So,
how about you, Ivan? Did you feel like you'd have more time than you did?
No, I mean, I didn't. I started doing it initially, but what I did was instead of doing it in writing, I started doing it in video, and then taking lots of pictures. So I didn't write as much. But honestly, Josie and I talked about this from the beginning. I'm just going to take one day at a time. The first 2 weeks, they were the only 2 weeks that I pretty much had planned with meals and stuff like that. But, I just didn't know what I didn't know. And because everybody that I watched on YouTube had a different story, then I said, my story is going to be my own. So I'm just going to go ahead and do it and just make adjustments as I go and see where that goes. And that's what I did. And I think it worked out really well for me.
Awesome. So Ivan, when you come on to chat, sometimes I'll just turn off your video because if it starts getting loopy and we can't hear you, but feel free to turn it back on because I can't turn it back on. You got to turn it back on once you're done talking because I want everyone to hear what you said. So did you guys ever feel unsafe on the trail, whether it was the terrain, animals, I don't know, other people? Like, did you ever feel any type of safety issues?
People, not so much. I mean, there's people that give you a weird vibe, but you can just keep walking if they do. Animals, sort of, a couple times seeing bears and stuff, you get nervous, but I wasn't like scared. The only times I was really scared for my safety were storms. Walking through some storms and my summit. Yeah.
Your summit.
I saw
I saw your summit picture.
It was the most incredibly cool thing because it was the stupidest thing you could have possibly done.
I summited on a really bad day. And
Your hair was frozen.
My hair froze.
You heard your own voice in the wilderness.
You guys, I think he summited either a day or two after us when they had that big storm.
Yeah, there was a time there where like I totally lost, like I couldn't see any of the blazes or the kerns or anything. Ooh. And I would be walking and I couldn't see the trail, and I realized that I wasn't on the trail anymore, and I had to like backtrack. And there's a couple times where I got actually nervous because it was cold and it was windy. And but I think that might have been the only time I was really scared. And a couple thunderstorms walking across like ridge lines, and lightning would strike and the thunder was like right there, and I was like, oh, this is dangerous. But yeah, those were probably the only times. And that's what 3 times out of however many days, 200 days.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
We were in a storm right after McAfee Knob. The tornado had come through, and the other people, I didn't even know the people on the trail. There just happened to be people that were there, and we just climbed down into some crevices and stuff, waited for the storm to come by. We had a beautiful day. I got a really nice picture of on McAfee. Sun was out. It was beautiful. The storm came through. It was about a half hour, 45 minutes maybe, and we just hunkered down into some crevices and rocks, and then the sun came back out again. So, but it was one of those really windies up on that ridge. Of course, that didn't help. But there was one time in Pennsylvania. After Duncannon, we met him again around 5:01. There was a creepy guy on trail, and the pictures were going up and down on the sending them to different people were sending them online to the social media and stuff like that. They called him Cotton Ball and stuff. It was just a guy. You knew he wasn't a thru hiker, but he was kind of getting belligerent and stuff. And anytime we saw him, we just hiked along and kept going. There was we weren't stopping. So
I think you brought up something really interesting there, is that it has a name for it. I can't remember. It's like, I don't think it's called the trail gossip line, but it's kind of something like that, where people will pass information up to other people if there's someone that doesn't seem quite right. And there were a couple situations where we had passed something on to people coming, and if they were coming southbound or someone we had passed. I loved that kind of community and teamwork and people looking out for each other if someone just didn't seem right.
Yeah.
And go ahead.
I've said it 1,000 times, but the trail is like a 2,000-mile, 2-foot wide small town.
Yeah.
And like news travels fast. Right, and so you really can't, like, I grew up in a small town and it's a very similar vibe. Like if creepy people or like weird people are out there, it's brought to everybody's attention pretty quickly, and you can't really like.
It's quicker than texting.
Yeah, and I really like that about it and appreciate it, because there's such a small handful of creepy people on the trail, and creepy, you could take half of those and just say they just were having a bad day and they just seemed creepy. You know, there's probably not more than a couple creepy people on the trail. But people look out for each other, which I think is really great. How about you, Ivan? Did you experience anything that made you feel unsafe?
I think you guys already mentioned it. The storm. I got caught up in one storm, and that's pretty much it. The animals, when we saw them early enough where they didn't create no fear or anything. We just walked around there. If it was a rattlesnake and the bear, we actually got a really good look at the bear. And then the moose was just above the hill. Didn't fear any. So, but other than that, and I think you guys captured it. The creepy folks. The word would get around, and you knew not to stop in this shelter because there was somebody that was pretty creepy there, so you just wouldn't stop there and you just move on.
Mm-hmm.
So what would you guys change anything about the trail, the culture, or something else? If you had this magic wand and you could change one thing, and you can't say that everyone smells nice, like it's got to be a little realistic that we can actually
no escalators. Is that
no escalators? Although Captain and I did joke about that and say, kind of this alter world type thing, like 100 years from now, are they going to just put escalators all over the whole thing? Like, you just never know. I saw one part of the trail which I thought was really cool, was wheelchair accessible. I can't remember exactly what it was. It was along a river, and I thought this is pretty cool. So is there anything that you wish could change or would change about the culture, the trail, any bit of it?
Not the culture. I think they can get rid of some of the rocks in Pennsylvania.
I'll vote for that one.
Nah, I wouldn't change a thing. Just because like anything that I changed would probably make it worse. And like a lot of things weren't like what I expected, but they were what they were, and it like made it better. And so I don't. Hard question. I don't know if I'd be able to think that could improve it, because the culture's amazing, and like
Yeah. So many nice people on trail.
Yeah.
So many nice people. I
To
made
be
a woman
honest-
cry because I said there was so many nice people on trail. She started to cry.
Well, to be honest, I asked you this question, but I didn't really have an answer, myself. I'm like, I just don't like, I think it was so really interesting and magical and unique that if you change one thing, like you said, Achilles, it can impact something else, right? It is what it is. I guess if I had to pick something, it would be, and I don't, this is just a matter of like trail magic, and it wasn't like it ruined my hike, but we had some pretty serious water carries of like 3 and 4 liters and dried up because it was so hot in Virginia.
Yeah.
And I wish like when we came to New Jersey, there were coolers from the local people, like every like 5 miles with water. And I thought was really cool. Now, a lot of Virginia is less accessible. But I would love to see kind of something out there water wise when it's in really, really hot, unusually hot year or month or whatever, that can help the people that are out there doing water carries. I mean, I'm assuming we were all relatively prepared. There were only a couple times we got down to like this much, and we were able to ration it. But I also think about the people who aren't as prepared, who are section hikers. I'm not saying section hikers are not prepared, but I'm saying by the time you're on the trail a month, you're pretty well prepared and you pretty know what you can and cannot do, right? You maybe will still make stupid mistakes here and there, but I really did through that part feel for people that didn't have as much experience and could have easily run out of water. And I don't know if there's any solution to that, but that was one thing that just kind of came to mind right now, because that can be obviously very, very dangerous for people. All right. So did the hike change you, or did something out of it, or did you get something out of it you hadn't expected?
I'll bring it up.
How did it change you, or?
Yeah, that heat changed me. I was a changed man. I'll bring it up one more time. That was brutal. And like, it really, I had to summon a level of like determination that like I wasn't really sure that I had, and just zoning out and like finding my way through it. But as far as like, definitely changing. All experiences change you. And that was a long, difficult, unique experience. And so it certainly changed me in ways I wouldn't expect, and like didn't get out of it what I expected to, but got out more in other ways. And like, hard to say exactly how. Still processing.
Right. I was gonna say it's still processing, but right. You are still on trail, but even like 9 days or 8 days off trail now, I'm still processing, and I think things are going to surface even more and more as time goes by.
I think
we'll be in a situation maybe with friends or family, and maybe we'll react differently than how we would have previously. I can see from like Captain and I already, like, I think we were pretty conscious of the resources they're out in the world, and the ones that are being depleted already because we lived on a sailboat. But I even think more so now. We're like, oh, okay, well, we don't need a shower. We can go 5 days without a shower. I mean, we're not doing that, but you know what I'm saying? Like, we're looking at things very, very differently. And I remember Ivan said to me, he said, I got everything I wanted out of the trail and then some. And it's kind of like what you're saying, Achilles, like you got stuff and even more, and now it's all kind of processing. And I wonder how long it takes for everything to kind of process and settle, or if it's stuff that you're processing for the rest of your life, and you're still 20 years from now, you're still going, oh, the trail impacted this. Look at this.
I think it'll impact the way I pursue my goals, because like, I don't know, I get impatient and wanting results and working towards something so like long that took so long, and like a lot of days it doesn't feel like you're making any progress, but then you get on top of a mountain and you look back and you're like, I was at that mountain a week ago, and I just going and I got here. And so I think it'll kind of change the way I approach like long-term goals. Like, yeah, it may not feel like I'm always moving towards it, but if you just keep doing it every day, then you make progress. And I always knew that much more concrete now.
Yeah. New Hampshire was that way. I think New Hampshire was the first place on trail where you could hike one day and then 2 weeks later look back and see what you did.
I know, know, right?
Not every place on the trail, and you say, and it just kind of haunted me through all of that. And I think, so that was kind of cool, but kind of like, wow, I can't get away from this place.
Right, Mount
But,
Washington is always there watching you.
Yeah,
2
look,
weeks
every time you
later,
went
it's
around
still
a bend,
watching
they're
you.
still looking at you. Yeah.
I know. It's so true. How about you, Ivan?
I'm still processing a lot of it. I think I got from the trail what I was going to get and then some, like you said. But the one thing that I continue to think about is, as you know, I retired in 18. I stopped working in November. Um, and I think I don't think I know what the trail did to me because of the repetitive behaviors every single day, getting up and forming those habits throughout the day, knowing what time you gotta get up and go, so you know how many miles you're gonna cover throughout the day or how many you want to cover, and then based on how you feel, you do more, sometimes even less miles, but you at least try to do what you set your mind to do by the end of the day. I think establishing those habits in my retired life is going to be critical for me. And I started doing that, starting with as simple things as waking up at the same time I woke up on the trail. I'm getting up at 5:15, 5:30, and I'm going to the gym. Not even thinking about it. I'm standing there, I drink my coffee. Yeti, I have to have my coffee every
Yeah, the
morning.
coffee, that's
So
right.
I, I I have my coffee in the morning. I drink a glass of water and I go to the gym. And sometimes I go to the gym and I don't feel like doing anything, but I push myself thinking, hey, I didn't have an option if I needed to walk or not. I
Right.
had to walk. I had to
Right.
walk during that day. So I'm going to work out today, even if it's at a minimum, I'm going to work out either way. And of course, my physical being has changed a lot. I lost 40 something pounds and I want to keep them on because I feel great.
Yeah, that's so Ivan, there's a couple interesting things that you said there I've been going to the gym. We're in a hotel while Largo recovers from his surgery, and there's a gym here. And this morning I didn't feel like going, but I was like, you know what? I didn't have a choice on the trail. So I'm clearly capable of it. I just didn't want to, right? And
Right.
that's like a
Right.
certain level of privilege. Like, well, I don't have to. I'm not gonna miss out on anything. I can just stay here and get up and work and whatever. So I can totally relate to that. Interesting what you said about the weight. Okay, so you lost over 40 pounds. How about you? Did you guys lose any weight?
Yeah, I started the trail the heaviest I've been. It wasn't that heavy, but I'd worked out and tried to gain a bunch of weight before, and I immediately lost it like 3 weeks in, and got the lightest I've been in a long time. I lost like 20 pounds on the trail, but it hovered
Wow.
around 140 or whatever. So yeah, I need to gain some of that back now.
Yeah.
Gentle Yeti?
I lost 38 pounds. I'm trying to gain some of that back now too. I don't want to gain it all back, but I want to gain back and I was started burning muscle so quickly. It was back in Virginia when I first noticed it. And so it just, what do you do now? I got to eat protein powders, because I was doing nothing but burning muscle. My wife bought me a new pair of pants to wear when I got off the trail, and it was still 2 sizes too big.
It's so fascinating to me because they say, so I didn't lose any weight. In the beginning, I put on weight. And then when I weighed myself on my last day, I had lost 3 pounds. I didn't want to lose weight anyway because I didn't really have it to lose. And like you said, it starts eating your muscle, right? And then it gets much harder. I typically, from what I've heard on the trail and what I've seen, is that the men lose fat, the women gain muscle. Is that what the
Muscle.
thing
Yeah,
is?
that's what I
Yeah.
understand.
And I
That's
would
right.
say
Yeah.
most men that I talked to that were like over 40 lost between 30 and 40 pounds. And then most women that were over 40 they actually lost weight. I was one of the rare ones, probably about 10 to 20 pounds. So people really do lose weight. And if you want to lose weight, then like you said, like Ivan was saying, you got to consciously figure out how you're going to do this. And if we're getting up hiking every day, we can get up and do other types of exercise, I mean, it's clearly possible to do it. We just have to choose to do it, right? And I guess we have to choose our eating. I don't know about you guys, but I had like major, I didn't really have hiker hunger that much on the trail, but when I got off, holy maloney. I've been eating, maybe it's the free breakfast buffet because I want to get my money's worth. I don't know, but I've been eating so much and I'm like, I got to be working out more. I'm like, did you guys have hiker hunger after you're done? I know, Achilles, you're not officially 100% done, but is it gotten worse? Like,
It's just pretty much maintained the same. Yeah. Just I've always kind of had appetite stuff anyway. So now I think I eat probably closer to what a normal person eats.
I think so as well. I think my stomach shrank even some a little bit. I just can't eat that much anymore. So, which is probably a good thing for the most part.
Right? Ivan, how about you?
Same with me. I mean, I don't have hiker hunger after I do. I think I said this before. I do crave for some reason the ramen bomb. I don't know why. I'll eat that for the small, but but no, I think like Eric, you know, my stomach must have shrank because I don't get as hungry. My breath, like I usually, before I left, I would eat 4 or 5 pancakes. Even on the trail, sometimes I'll eat 3 and 4 pancakes. My wife made pancakes the other day. I ate 2, I think 2.5, and I was full already. Now I do eat more often, so I'll eat breakfast, and then about 10:30, I'm eating a
Yeah.
snack. But I'm usually trying just to make that like fruits and something like that, just because I really truly want to keep this weight off it because it feels really good.
Yeah, it does, right? I mean, it's funny because Captain and I were saying to each other, okay, how long after the trail, after we are done, do we think our bodies are gonna not ache anymore? And his didn't really ache. His is a different story because now he has these metal rods in himself, so he hurts more now than he ever did on the trail. And he didn't hurt that much on the trail, but I got off and my feet were really nothing really hurt except my feet. And my feet are almost, it's been 9 days and they're almost 100% back to where they were. They feel great. I
I
have
love
other problems that have come back in, but I have my neck is hurting me because I'm back working on the computer, right? No neck problems on the whole trail carrying this 30-pound bag. I come back, I start on my computer. It's like, occupational hazard, I guess. Do you guys, are your bodies feeling like they're kind of coming back, like the pain's going away, or is it still there?
I've been in the car pretty much since I got off trail, like more traveling, and I don't think that's helping. And no, my body's not getting back to normal. My knees still hurt, my feet still hurt. Not as bad, I guess, not as dramatically, but it's still there for sure.
Whoa. Okay, how about
So-
you guys? Are things still hurting?
My knees are still bothering me a little bit. Other than that, I mean, I'm actually going to the chiropractor tomorrow. That's why I couldn't do this tomorrow. But yeah, no, I feel pretty good. My knees are a little bit sore. It just feels like I'm not carrying the weight anymore. My body's reacting to the center
Yeah.
of gravity of having a pack off. When you got the pack
Right.
on, your center of gravity change. You need to take it off. And now I'm kind of a little bit of a hiker hobble, without the pack, So I think it's your body readjusting back to that normal center of gravity situation.
Well, I had to take so when we our last day, our daughter Avalon flew in and surprised us, and so she was at my parents when Will and Captain and I got back to the house. And the next day, I took her around. She needed some. I needed, or the 2 days later, anyway, I took her to run some errands, and I drove with this arm. And the next day, this whole arm, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm like in the best shape I've ever been in. But what's wrong with this arm? Because I wasn't used to using that muscle, I mean, I guess
Right.
if it'd been like a 30-pound wheel and I was holding it like this, it might have been a little different. I don't know.
Right. Trekking
How
poles.
about right, trekking poles? And sometimes I find myself like standing, like I was standing we were in the hospital the other day, and I was standing in the hospital line, and my hands were like this, like I'm like, oh my, what am I doing? Ivan, how does your body feel? Does it still ache, or are you fully
So
recovered at this point?
it does. No, I'm not fully recovered at all. My body's still, I'm still recovering. But certainly enough, I just have to get up and start moving. So what I do is I walk to the gym. Even yesterday, what I did was I went and I wanted to take our second car. I take it to the mechanic. My wife is like, "Oh, I'll come pick you up." I said, "Don't worry about it. I'm gonna walk home." It was about 4 miles. And today I'm here at the storage with the RV, just doing a little bit of maintenance on it because we're gonna go on a trip. And Josie's like, "Hey, I'm gonna come pick you up." I said, "Don't worry about it. I'll walk home." And it's about 6 miles away. So, I'm just trying to get the steps in, and it makes me feel better. I feel great. When I walk. Now in the mornings when I wake up, it's mostly when I feel that soreness. It's not necessarily pain; it's more
Yeah.
soreness. But walking kind of alleviates it a lot when I go to the gym and all that. So
Just to
Yeah,
loosen up.
that's the way I'm working.
I could see that because like a lot of the times during the hike, like my body would still be hurting, my joints and stuff, the first couple miles, and then they warm up. I think that's part of
Yep.
the problem since I got off is I just like haven't been hiking or walking at all. And so I don't have time to work out all those kinks and stuff.
Yeah, I think that's the same with me. Like, and when I wake up in the morning, I'm a little stiff, and I'm like, oh, I want to stretch, and I don't know if that'll go away, if that's age, if that's hike, whatever it'll be. But interesting to see. It's funny you said that, Ivan, because you know, they've kind of captain's like routine or a PT is a certain amount of walking each day, and now he's up to walking 20 minutes 3 times a day, and the girl at the hospital is like, well, you can go walk in the mall or you can go this. And I'm like, oh no, I can't do the mall noise. But I'm like, and then Will was like, well, there's a Chipotle. And I'm like, how far it is? He's like, it's 2 miles. I'm like, oh, I'll walk with him there to get food and come back. You know, things that, like you said, like Josie was going to pick you up. Like typically we'd rather, we just have some come pick us up. And now I find myself I'll just walk there. And I mean, it's very, not only is it good physically, but I feel like it's good mentally, right? Just to kind of get out and
Oh,
clear
yeah.
my head and walk. I mean, it's not super ideal here in Phoenix because it's hot and it's flat and it's kind of boring. There's a lot of zooming cars going by, but I just put my headphones on and I'm just like, okay, I can do this. So, all right, I'm not going to keep you guys too much longer because you've been so generous to spend this time with me, but I want to ask you a couple more questions. Okay. Would you attempt another 6-ish month through hike?
Yeah, eventually. A lot of people were like, oh, I don't want to get off. You know, I want to keep going. I'll yo-yo, I'll go back. I didn't feel that. I was definitely ready. But I think I'll eventually try to be something down the line once I get money.
Yeah, right, right.
I don't have a desire to do another 6-month trail, but I want to do some others, but I would never say never at this point yet either. We have some other trails we're getting ready. We're actually going to Zurich and we're going to do some hikes in around Interlaken. We're going to Norway next year as well. So some hiking there we're going to do. But we want to do the Superior hiking trail in north side of Lake Superior and part of or most of the Arizona trails we've talked about. So they're more like 800 miles than 2,000. So.
Ivan, I think I know what your answer used to be. Has it changed?
Absolutely not. So I'm never gonna do a through hike again. Although Frozone and Oz are trying to convince me to do the PCT with them in a couple of years. Who knows how I'll feel then? But honestly, on a personal level, I don't see myself leaving my wife for 6 months again. You know, I was deployed several times where I had to leave my family behind. This 6 months, the one thing that I realized is that I don't want to spend unnecessary time without my wife. So we're going to do the Camino in 2026. We already have that planned. We're going to do we're going to go to the Japan World Expo this spring. And we're going to do things like that, but and travel throughout the world and throughout the states with our RV and do the hiking that's associated with the places that we go to. But other than that, no, through hikes, that'll never happen.
So, Achilles, I can relate to what you say, and I think the guys could too. Like, I didn't want to stay on the trail. I was happy I was on as long as I was, and I was happy to get off. Do I miss certain aspects of it? Absolutely. But I love my pre-trail life, and you know, like Ivan was saying, and Gentle Yeti, like I really 6 months is a long time to be away from my husband. I love him. I love spending time with him. We run a business together, and so. Captain said he will not do another through hike, at least not, you know, anytime soon. He has other goals. He wants to go to university and stuff. So it's not feasible for him. I would not do another one until he was out of the house. And then I would want to do it with Will. I will do like 2 and 3 month hikes, but 6 months is something I will do eventually, but I want to do it with Will. And financially, it's a big jump to take 6-7 months off from work or from my business. And especially if we were only able to do this because Will stayed working and running our business and stuff. And so I don't see it being in the cards anytime in the future. And I absolutely don't want to spend 6 months alone in the woods. I know that. I know for sure. I like doing it with Captain. I like the people I met along the way. But like, I just don't want to be away from Will for 6 months. Like we made it work, but I don't want to do it again. Gentle Yeti, you had something?
Yeah,
No,
did Captain gain any weight or lose any weight?
He lost 5 pounds when we weighed ourselves throughout and he hadn't lost any weight, but when we both weighed ourselves at the end and I had lost 3 pounds in basically a week and he had lost 5 pounds, he hadn't weighed himself for a couple of weeks. And he really did, he had less weight to lose than I did. He was
Right,
already
right.
really thin.
16, right?
Yeah,
17?
yeah. And so he was already really, really thin. So I don't even know if there's any truth to this because I'm not a dietitian. I don't know a lot about all this food stuff. But we were eating obviously far more calories, but more sugar and more processed stuff than we do in our real life. So I think we were actually eating a lot fattier stuff. And I think that contributed to us to not losing weight to a huge extent because we were off our boat for about a year before. But on the boat, we have to cook everything from scratch. So there's no preservatives. We eat a very low sugar diet, no candy and all that kind of stuff. And so at the end, I was up to eating like 2 Snickers bars a day. And I don't even really like Snickers, but I needed the sugar and I needed everything it was giving me. And I felt my body needed it. So I think we're both pretty happy with the results of our body and kind of how it dealt with it from a weight gain loss perspective. What I don't want to do now is like what Ivan was saying is I gained a lot of muscle and I don't want to lose it. Like I'm like, I don't want to lose it, so I'm at the gym really focusing hard on not losing the muscle because I feel even though I'm having my necks hurting from working on the computer, I feel very strong and my body feels like just a really I feel like my body's really there for me and I want to keep it there for me, especially since, I'm not 21 and how we take care of our bodies now really impacts, the life we get to live, say in our 70s and 80s. And I want to be around and I want to be able to move my body. And if I get grandchildren, I want to be able to play with them and pick them up and all that kind of stuff. So it's kind of like we're given a gift, right? Now to get to this point is so hard, but now all we have to do is maintain what we've built. And so I really, really want to maintain that. Okay, so just a couple more questions. Okay, are you having a hard time transitioning back to your other life? And if so, whatever you're having a hard time with, what have you found that's helped?
I'm definitely not super equipped to answer this one, considering I have not retired regular
right,
life.
right.
Regular life before the hike wasn't that regular in the first place. So,
right.
or I guess you could say I'm having a very hard time readjusting because I'm not doing it yet.
Right. All right. Those veterans of us who have been back out in the real world for like what, 2 weeks? A week?
I'm not having a hard time transitioning. I was ready to be done with the Appalachian Trail when it was done. But now, I got right in. First thing we did when we got home, I had to go get a new washer and dryer and put that in the house. That kind of stuff, right back into the thing. Few other things that we had to do that were, family oriented that, took precedence. But no, I'm jumped right in the back, right where we started. I just want to be more calm than I was before.
How about you, Ivan?
Same. I was ready to be done with the trail. You guys know that. I repeated it over and over again. So I was ready to be off the trail. So and no issues transitioning back home. Now what I have done, I mentioned this earlier, is I'm trying to establish some new habits. I stopped working in November. That's you have certain habits when you're working. Now you're retired, and the least thing that I want to do is sit sedentary for a long period of time. So I started with the gym. I'm just changing one thing at a time. Right now is the gym. Just make sure that I create that habit that just becomes natural to me to go to the gym, spend an hour or two. The other day I was there for 2.5 hours. I get into the sauna, I do different things. The other thing that I want to pick up that I picked up already, that I have been wanting to do for quite some time is reading some books that I've had on the shelf for quite some time that I've been wanting to read. And I picked them up, and then studying the Bible. Those are 3 things that are definitely things that I wanted to pick up. And during this transition are the newest things that I have picked up from the time that I left to the time that I came back. But I was ready to be back.
I think it's really interesting because you use the word habits, and the reality of it is we can change anything, right? If we just make it a habit. We all learn that on the trail. We learned that. I mean, we would not have completed the trail like we did if we didn't learn how to form habits. So if we can do it on the trail, we're kind of forced to if we want to continue moving north, right? Then we can do it in our real life. For me, I got off the trail. We ended the trail on a Saturday. We drove from there back to Maine. I opened the door. Avalon was standing there surprising us. My parents, we had our guests from Italy with us. We played tour guide the next 2 days, spent time with our daughter. Boom, I hit the ground like this. That was not the plan. I don't encourage it or think it was the best way, but I was filled with people that loved me and cared about me, and that's all I cared about was spending time with them and soaking this all in. And then we flew to Phoenix, and Captain had his surgery, and then now I'm just kind of starting to come down. And what I'm finding is, like, the first day off the trail, we were doing some sightseeing things in Portland, Maine, and we walked into a Starbucks, and I couldn't be in the Starbucks. It was like I was fine when we were walking outside and whatever, but when I went in the Starbucks, it was a holiday weekend. It was so noisy and loud and crowded. And the weirdest
Yes,
is,
yes.
I am someone who has always functioned particularly well in loud, noisy, crowded spaces. We host group trips all over the world. We're in developing countries. It is loud and smelly often, and crowded and chaotic. And so that was really challenging. I'm getting better now. But just the noise and the amount of people close together was a real transition, probably like in the last week. And each day I notice I'm getting better at it. But when I got in that first Starbucks, I just said, you know what? I'm just going to wait outside. And Will was like, okay, I get it. We had talked about, I mean, I think it's important, like, to talk about, these transitions if you're going back to a partner. And so I actually found an article and sent it to Will and said, listen, don't take it personal. If I can't be in certain spaces, I don't know if this is going to happen to me, but if it does. And so that's been kind of the biggest transition for me, is the noise and the amount of people, because we're so used to the quiet out there. And some people come back and it doesn't bother them at all. Captain was fine. But for me, that was difficult. And also making decisions has been a little difficult, which is so weird. But if you think about it, on the trail, we made like 5 decisions a day. We had 5 things that were like maybe 5, maybe 6 things that were, water, where I'm going to sleep, that, like the weather, stuff like that. And I didn't have to think in a business mindset at all. And then I came back, and Will said, just take as long as you need before you come back to work. And I thought I would be back to work on our business within as soon as we got here in Phoenix. So I don't know, 4 or 5 days after. And it wasn't until yesterday that I really started working again. I would start to work and I was just like, I'm not there. I was also taking care of Captain too, and making sure he was okay. So my head was kind of there. But those are kind of the transitions that manifested for me. And I've just kind of leaned into them and been like, okay, this is bringing some value to my life, or this is what my body needs and my mind needs right now. And I'm just going to live in that space, because I know that I will take from it what I need and go back to what I was before that I need, and disregard, what I don't need. And I think,
Right.
I don't know if anyone else experienced that, but the loud noises was really, really difficult for me. It must
That
be
happened to me.
Well, yeah, as somebody who's always struggled with crowded places and loud noises, I thought maybe all that time in the wilderness would make it easier or better, or I'd have that time to myself and be able to process. No, made it worse.
Oh my God.
I mean, no, it's fine, but it is even right now with the cars behind me and stuff, I'm just like, all right, it's a lot of noise and stuff. You get used to it. The decisions thing, yeah, I'll get back to you on that.
Right. This is what you have to look forward to. Maybe it won't happen to you. Maybe you'll be like the guys, but and I kind of.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Ivan.
Well, I think what's important also is what's important is it's the reintegration process is truly something that there's a lot of literature out there to read about. Mostly when one partner is away from we do it in the military when we go deployed. This reintegration process that you go to ensure that one thing is. You talk about making decisions. The worst thing that I could do is come home. My wife has been making decisions on her own. She's been by herself for 6 months. And the worst thing I can do is come home and start making decisions. And no, we're not going to do that. We're going to do this.
Yeah.
No, we got to reintegrate ourselves, allow the flow of the home to take its toll based on time versus you trying to reintegrate yourself from where you left off. Your wife has been there my wife has been there for herself for 6 months, making decisions by herself, taking care of the house by herself, and doing those type of things. The least thing I want to do is interrupt that immediately. Okay, I got to reintegrate myself into the flow of the family and then work through that. And I think she respected that from me too, because I would go into the office at the house and just close the door and she would walk over and say, "You okay?" I said, "I just need some time, baby." And she
Yep.
said, "Got it." And she would walk away. She would walk away, and she would go to the. But we've done this for quite some time now because again, the military reintegration training is given, and you read about it, and it's something important that you do once you redeploy. So we've been doing this for quite some time, and I think doing that when I got back was so key. So you talk about what you did and how busy you got after you came back. Josie and I did totally the opposite. We stayed together. We went to Maine, we went to Rhode Island, we went to New
Mm.
Hampshire. We traveled together and just us two. That's it. We stayed us two, and we visited some folks for a very short period of time, for an hour. But for most time was just her and I just talking. In some cases, we were just quiet, but we didn't say a word in the car. You know, we were just quiet, no music, nothing playing. It was just so quiet. And she respected that silence. I respected the silence as well. And I think that reintegration piece for whoever goes through is really critical, understanding the other person's perspective, also yours, and respecting both of them. And I think that's going to be critical for, at least for me, it is.
Yeah, I think that's a great takeaway, and thank you for sharing it. And it's great that, the military provides you with that because these are extreme cases. You're going away and coming back, and the person left behind has created a new normal, right? They've had to survive without you. So they got to do what they got to need to do, and you can't just come in and disrupt it. So I love that piece, and I love sharing that. I think that's a great takeaway, Ivan, for people to really think about, especially since we're coming back from the trail and we've had a lot of time to think, right? And we might have all these new things that we want to integrate into our life. And I'm sure they're all going to be wonderful individually as well as with a couple, or if you're coming back to a family. But the reality of it is that this person that's been left behind has a normal that they've established, and they're not necessarily going to be resistant to what you want to offer, but it's going to take time for them to kind of absorb it all, right? Yeah, the sitting in the quiet is really interesting because we've done a lot of that. A lot of that, and just having quiet space. Or I'm just like, we're in like an Uber, and I'm like, can he turn the music off? Like, let's just sit in a quiet space. And I actually had more quiet space on the trail than I thought I was going to. I downloaded all these podcasts and all these audiobooks and and I listened to so few compared to what I would listen to, which is very, very interesting and surprising to me. I found like a lot of peace in the quiet space of it. All right, guys, I've kept you for so long, and I could talk to you for like 5 more days because this has been so helpful. Is there anything a question that I haven't asked, or something that you want to share or offer that you think is really valuable to anyone listening? Just something, could be something you gained. It could be your favorite piece of gear, like anything that you feel like I didn't cover that could help someone else that wants to hike the trail. I put you guys on the spot. That wasn't on the spot. Sorry. You don't have to offer anything. If there's something burning inside of you that you're like, I really want to say this, then I want to give you guys the opportunity to say it.
I think a lot of people look at something like hiking the Appalachian Trail and just think that it's beyond their capability and it's impossible. But I think pretty much with anybody, you'd be surprised what you can do. And like, I never thought like I couldn't do it or anything, but I consistently surprised myself with what I was able to do. I don't know. Just, don't make anything not an option for yourself if it's something you're curious about.
I love that. And I think we probably all have stories from the trail of someone they met on the trail. We met a lady who was blind. I met several guys with 2 titanium knees. I mean, there's more stories than that go on. And then the things that I don't know about people. We did talk with one guy who suffers from really, really severe depression, and he went back home and he needed to be back on the trail. So he hiked the PCT, and now he was doing the AT, and that's where he feels his peace. And I agree. I think that obviously I'm not a doctor, consult your physician, but I think that this is something that almost anyone can do if they put their mind to it. They do their research, they have a determination, they have a support team, whether that's at home, whether that's on the trail. The right equipment. I mean, it takes the whole package, the right equipment for your body. But I think it is possible. And I agree with you, Achilles. Like, people like, it's not possible. I always think anything's possible, but I do think that if you really want to make this happen, you look where your limitations are and you work with those. And maybe that is, there were like Ivan was saying, he's like, I was platinum blazing. We met a guy who platinum blazed the whole trail. the entire trail. And we saw him at the end, and I saw his summit picture. You know, I don't know what his story was, but, you know, maybe there was some inabilities that didn't allow him to sleep on a mattress. He had a bad back or whatever the case may be, or maybe he just wanted to platinum blaze. Like, there's so many ways that you can do this, which I think is really important, and that we can all accomplish this if we put our mind to it. Gentle Yeti or Ivan, anything else you want to add?
No, I think some of the, how do I say it? Some of the most, I don't even know how to say it. Give me a second.
Mhm.
The doing the Appalachian Trail was tough, and some of the hardest things that I got something out of, or some of the best things I got something out of, was difficult. And it was a difficult activity, but I got a lot out of it that I probably don't even know yet. So that's what I know.
Yeah, I would totally agree with that. So, and I think Captain and I would talk a lot about this, about some of the hardest situations we went through. We gained so much from it, and like you said, it's still all processing. But when we would go to bed at night on our vlogs, we would say the best and worst part of our day, and often the best part of the day was if we got trail magic or leftover pizza. But some of them were a little bit deeper than that, you know. And sometimes just seeing the most amazing view and knowing that you hiked to it is such a great feeling, right?
Yeah,
You know?
I did that. Yep. Wow.
I think what helps also, if I was to give any advice to anyone, would to be to think about the why and the purpose that they're doing the hike. There's so much to gain in a through hike, based on my experience in regards to just spending time alone, which we don't get as much in this world today, to just be able to be within yourself and understand not only who you are, but also the reasons why you do what you do. And I
Yeah.
think it's a perfect time for you not to only to understand what the why is, but the purpose why you're doing, and just be able to revisit that throughout your journey, and then at the end revisit that. You know, as you revisit it throughout the journey, at the end revisit it and see if your why has changed or if your purpose has strengthened. But to finish the trail, I think it'll be important, and I think it's important for us to understand what's next, versus just stopping and say, you know what, I just don't know what I'm going to do next, you know. And there's people who have, I mean, Frozone was one of them. We had a really good conversation about this, and Frozen and I at the end, you know, when we finished, you know, and because there's so much potential in that young man, I know I took some time to mentor, coach, and to speak to the young people, because I thought that there was opportunity to do that. And with Frozone, I mean, such a smart, intelligent, full of potential young man, you know, and we're talking about just this, you know, understanding what you why and the purpose why you did this and what you can gain from it, and then see where you're at the end. I think it gives some value to when you finish, and something to look forward to, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I love that. And I think, we did the Camino Frances, which is 44 days of hiking, and it's a little more pampered, a lot more pampered than what we did on the AT, but nonetheless still gives great value. And I remember doing that and thinking, now we did work part-time while we were doing it. We hiked in the mornings and worked in the afternoons, but still never in our life had Will and I not worked since we were like, I don't know, a paper route, like at age 8. So we had always worked, and we never had time to just walk every day and just think. And I left that hike saying, oh my gosh, everyone should just take a nice long hike. And it's not built into our American culture at all to do that. It is built into some countries and some cultures, but it's just not part of our American culture. And I thought there was such value in it, and how much I could have gained, from doing that at a much younger age. I still gained stuff from it. And I really, really loved it when I saw the young people on the Camino as well as on this trail, because I feel like it really, and Gentle Yeti and Ivan, I'm assuming you'll agree with this, but it gives them this time that we never had to just think about stuff. Right. And really think about what they want in life and the direction and what they want in a partner and what they want to do for work. And I feel like there's just a lot of pressure on younger people in my opinion, compared to when I was young. And you never have this time to just think about like, what do I want? Not what my parents want, not what society wants, but what do I want?
Exactly.
And I think with any age, there's value in taking a nice long walk. I just wish it was something that was built into our culture where it was like almost like required. Like you don't do 11th grade, you go, whatever, whatever the case may be. You know what I'm saying? Because it gives you, when it's so easy to not think about what you want out of life or direction or anything like that, when you're just going on the hamster wheel, right? You just, it's so easy to say, well, I won't think about it today, or we won't talk about this today in our relationship because we're so busy and life's so crazy, or the kids are crying, or whatever the case may be. So I agree with you. Like it's nice.
It has to be intentional.
Yeah.
It has to be intentional. It has to be something that you actually say, I'm going to do this. That's why my recommendation would be, write your why and the purpose based on the reasons why you're doing this at the beginning, and see how that changes through time as you do the Appalachian Trail or whatever hike or whatever walk you're going to do. Because it has to be intentional for the same reasons that you mentioned, no time,
right.
You're stuck with your phone, you're looking at your phone, you're looking at your multimedia, or, so, I mean, yeah.
I guess, okay, so that made me, and I'm going to let you guys go. That made me think of one thing. If I could, it's kind of like a double-edged sword here, but when I asked you guys one thing you would change about the trail, sometimes I wished that Wi-Fi wasn't as accessible as it was. Those days where we had 3 days without it, I was going crazy, like, I gotta talk to my daughter and my husband, and we were so spoiled with it, but there was such value in not having that connection for 3 days at times too. I mean, it made the trail doable and accessible for Captain and I, because he did need to do school in the beginning, and I still need to respond to work emails and stuff. But some days I just had wished to, like, oh, maybe we could just have 3 days without Wi-Fi, because I found those days really refreshing. And I know we can self-discipline, but that's a whole other chat. All right, you guys. All right, we got to leave on a funny note here. Okay, do you since we started with any weird habits we've taken on, I don't have a funny note, but do you guys have one piece of gear that you just absolutely loved? Or one that you really didn't like? I'll give my one that I didn't, or I didn't, not that I didn't like it. I had an umbrella. Everyone said I would use it. I used it twice and didn't really care for it, because I had the little strap that attached to, little like $3 thing attached to the strap, but it was hitting the trees and stuff. So it was like having a big hat on. Like I didn't like the umbrella, and Captain would walk with his umbrella and hold it, but I couldn't do that because I needed my poles or I would fall. So you have anything that you're like, oh, I shouldn't have bought that, or something you're like, I'm so glad I had that?
I got an umbrella halfway through and I loved it. Might have been my favorite piece of gear.
See, I love that you said that, because everyone is so different, right? Captain loved his umbrella.
Something about not getting rained on. There's something very psychologically nice about having it buried between me and the rain. And I've used it as a shield when the rain was coming in sideways sometimes. I like the umbrella personally.
That's so funny. And Captain loved it too.
The tree thing was annoying. I agree. And that would get me, sometimes, but it was worth it not to get rained on for me.
Oh, that's so cool. Okay. Ivan and Gentle Yeti.
I had a great sleeping bag. I don't know why, but I loved my sleeping bag. And I even told my wife, I said, we're going to get you one of these. This is the best piece of gear I got on the trail. I don't know
what brand is it?
It's a Nemo Disco.
Nemo Disco. Oh, I just like the name of that.
That actually reminds me, I think probably my favorite piece of gear is my alpaca liner for sleeping. I don't know what brand it was just given to me, but it's the one thing that at the end of the trail didn't smell. And so I don't know what it is about the alpaca. I don't know if it doesn't hold on to stink, but I slept in it every day and I was gross. And that thing still smelled great.
Wait, what was it? It went inside your sleeping bag, or it was
just like a little sock. It was a liner. I
okay.
And so I was in the alpaca liner and then had the quilt over me, unless it was summer, in which case I didn't do that. But it's the one thing that never caught a stench. So that has a lot of value in my book.
Yeah, I had a fleece liner, and I don't know what the brand is either. And I didn't notice it smelling, but I love that thing because it would come up over my head and I could tighten it into and then my quilt, and I was like all in there, of course, until I had to pee. But Ivan, do you have a favorite piece?
I do. My tent. I set my tent out there the entire time. When I was camping. And the toe storms that I got caught up didn't get wet. A little bit of water came in, but didn't get wet. But it kept me.
And what kind of tent is it?
I have to mention the sneak. It's a Z pack, offset duo.
Okay.
Z pack. So it's very, very, very nice. And then my shoes, the Ultras, Olympus 5 and 6. I didn't get one blister the entire time.
Yeah, I got no blisters. I had the same shoes, and I took care of my feet the entire time too. I got 0 blisters the entire trip.
Achilles, did you have any blisters?
No blisters the entire time. Got really lucky. I did topos is what I wore most of the time. But yeah.
So I had 2 blisters, 2 or 3 blisters right after the rocks of Pennsylvania. My feet got wet and I walked in. The rocks were fine. I love the rocks, actually. They're one of my favorite parts of the trail. I know that's weird. But I got 2 blisters walking in the rain after that. And I had every shoe under the sun. So I summited with my topos, I think is what I summited with. But interesting that none of us got blisters. Did any of you guys wear toe socks? I wore toe socks. Anyone wear those? No?
Ivan did.
Ivan, you wore toe socks?
He's not moving. I can see he's not moving. So I just thought, yeah, he had toe socks.
Yeah, I did. I wore the toe socks. I wore the toe socks. I transitioned from the synthetic to the merino wool halfway through it. Not even halfway through. It was in New England, and then I wore a sock over that.
That's what I did too.
Yeah.
I love the toe socks. I started wearing them on the Camino. Now, interesting, did the Camino and it was a fraction of the miles and I had blisters galore. So I guess something's different, but okay. I've kept you guys for way, 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 way too long. This has
We'll be
been,
talking about the Camino soon.
so we will. This has been so awesome. I cannot thank you guys enough. I really, not only do I think it was informative, it was really, really fun. I enjoy your honesty, hanging out with you guys on the trail, and I look forward to hanging out again in a continued relationship. This is not the end of it. Yeah, just thank you. It was really, really fun to reminisce and also to hear, because some of your stories I've heard, and I've heard your perspective on stuff, but other things I hadn't. So it's interesting to see how there's kind of a crossover on some things, and then some things like the umbrella, like I'm never carrying an umbrella again, and Achilles is like, I'm going to live with my umbrella forever. Like, it just goes to show you that on the trail, like, there's no perfect shoe for a foot. It's the shoe that works for your foot, right? And it's the gear that works for you. I think that's really something for everyone that's watching to note, that you can go on and ask all the questions on all these Facebook groups, but it's got to be what works for you and your body. And that may take some finagling. So thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Really, really amazing. And we're all going to hike the PCT together. Woo! Thank you so much for being here. I hope you got great value out of the vlog. We're the guys, not cool and cute and awesome and everything. Meet you back here tomorrow.